It's the Kyle Heimann Show on Redeemer Radio.
Today is September 17th, 2019. This is episode 755. I'm Kyle Heimann here with Cory Heimann as my co-host / guest this morning. Thanks for being here, Cory.
Hey, I'm really glad to be here. I don't know, as brothers, if our voices are too similar.
Well, you've been on in the past. We've talked about, should we do something to distort one of our voices so it sounds different?
Yeah, just put an octave filter on one of ours.
Probably mine, because people are used to hearing yours.
Or lots of reverb or something. What would be the most annoying? I think an octave filter, that's pretty drastic.
Sound like a Kanye West song or something like that. Yeah.
Doing anything to celebrate St. Robert Bellarmine today? I big plans.
I didn't have any plans yet, but now I need to start making plans.
Yeah, we got a feast day. You can celebrate. It's an optional memorial, so you can
optionally feast.
You can opt to not celebrate, I guess. There is an event coming up, and it's called Darkness Has Not Overcome. It's October 11th.
Yes, that's correct.
At the University of St. Francis Performing Arts Center.
That's correct, too.
And this originally debuted, if you will, in New York for a Catholic underground.
Yes.
What was the process of coming up with the idea for this? Where did the idea even come from?
Yeah, so
what was the original spark, maybe?
I run a studio called Likable Art, and we do mostly video production, a lot of graphic design, some consulting stuff. But I mostly work with clients, and projects come in, and we love working on them. We love our clients. But sometimes, as an artist, you're asking yourself, if I was just free to make anything, what would I make? And I think this event is that. We've done a couple of passion projects that have been kind of the next thing of what would you make if you could make anything. And this event was just kind of seeing this place we're at as a country, as a church, as a world, and just kind of seeing. I think there's a tension that we're feeling, an increased tension of darkness, and this event is recognizing that first, seeing the darkness, and not trying to just erase it or just say that you're crazy to feel that way or anything like that, but to see that first and then to recognize also the darkness has not overcome, and to do it in a way that's artistic and beautiful. I get asked every once in a while to speak on beauty or on art, and it always feels like sometimes I'm undermining my own message by just talking about beauty. And this is the first time where I feel like I can talk about beauty and I have the credits to do so because we're doing it in a beautiful way with music and with live art, and it's a very different kind of experience.
Well, light and darkness, there's so much there. There's light and shadow. There's, in the beginning, there was light. There's, don't hide your light under a bushel basket. There's all kinds of different ways in art that we see light and darkness. There's all kinds of things in religion. There's all kinds of saint quotes of, darkness can't cast out darkness, only light can. What is it?
Yeah.
Like, hate can't drive out hate, only love can.
Yes.
Is that Dr. Martin Luther King?
Yes. There you go.
What does this whole dark and lightness contrast mean to you?
Yeah, I will tell you that this event is starting with like 7 hours of material and cutting it down to an hour 20, hour and a half, because I find that theme to be a bedrock, especially of my faith, but of the artist world, I think, and of the artist faith, because I really see a beauty in. And I think we misunderstand God so often in thinking that he created darkness, but darkness is only a lack of light. And the only way you get darkness is to block out the light, And so that's what the fall is, right? Is our starting to block out the light. And so I think coming to an understanding of that and to recognize what that means in our wrestling hearts and how to start to come to terms with that, I think can bring us much closer to understanding what a loving God can look like when he's not the one who created the suffering that maybe we're going through, or people that we know are going through, or people on the other side of the world are going through that just does not make sense on its face.
So what is your creative process then for putting something like this together? So having all of these concepts, you're saying, okay, how am I going to relay these concepts via this spectacle, this event? What is the creative process? Where do you start brainstorming ideas or testing things out?
Yeah, so we have a weekly spark session is what we call it, where we take time just to what we call is bang on the walls and see if they're real, right?
Okay.
And so with this, we're sitting down and we're going over a couple of things and saying it's an event, we're doing this or that. Here are the kind of staples of the show right now. Let's play some music, and then we all write down ideas, and then we come together and we share all those ideas and bounce them off of each other. And a lot of times it goes into like, well, what if it wasn't on a stage? And you know what I mean? Like, and you kind of bang on all those walls of a traditional event, and you start to see like, okay, which of these things actually need to be there? Which ones don't? How could this look if it looked different? And so that's where kind of some of these ideas start to grow from. And then we have these little seeds of ideas, and we start placing them and seeing how they work together and start building an arc. Like that, a lot of what we were doing in a more recent session of kind of improving what we did is kind of writing out the arc of the night and the themes, how they walk through, and if we need to like switch things out to better clarify what's coming across, and letting it be subtle, but letting it be consistent throughout the whole night.
And I haven't seen it myself. I've heard a lot about it, and I've heard from people that have seen it, and I'm excited to be able to see it on October 11th. But how would you describe the event? It's not a musical. It's not really theater. It's kind of like a variety show almost. Is the way I'm picturing it. But again, I haven't seen it.
So here's the honest truth. So we did it in New York. It went over really well. We did it alongside with the Franciscan Friars of the Renewal. And they pulled me aside afterwards, and they said, you have to do this again. More people have to see this. Mm-hmm. And I said, I believe you are a prayerful man that knows what you're talking about. I will take that into consideration, right? And so doing it here in Fort Wayne, what we're actually doing is we're recording it, doing some promotional materials, that kind of thing, in order to tour with it. And so one of my goals, coming back to your question, one of my goals of this event is to figure out how to explain it, because it is very different. It's very much something I've never seen before, which makes it very hard to explain. It's not quite a concert. It does have music. It's not quite a performance art piece that you've necessarily seen before, although it does have elements of that. So I know, as a marketing professional, I know you always have to have an outsider explain your product. So what I'm trying to do is bring in outsiders to come help me explain what this is. So right now we're calling it an artistic exploration of light and dark. And so, yeah, it's a little bit of a performance art piece. It starts with music, ends with music, has music in between. But during some of that time, there's what we call live light painting, which I don't know has ever been done before. I've tried to find it, but I haven't seen it done, which is actually painting with light, and then it's translated on the screen where you're seeing what's being painted on the stage with these light sticks and light wands, and you're seeing it come up on the screen in art form.
So I want to dive down that just a little bit deeper, because I think, first of all, it's just interesting and fascinating to hear about this process. But also, I think to challenge all of us that no matter what message we're trying to get across to people, to think about, is there a different way to do this? Is there maybe a way that has never been done before to convey this message? And so with this light painting, if people want to imagine like a long exposure camera shot. So if you're taking a picture of something at night, you'd have a longer exposure, and it holds the shutter open longer.
That's right.
To let more light into the camera. So if you're taking a picture of the moon or something like that, you could get more detail in dark. So people have taken this, and you might see this on TV, and you might even be able to can you do it with your phone? Do a long exposure? You might have to have a special app or something like that, where you take a flashlight in the darkness and you spell something out. You know what a good example of this is with sparklers. You know how you try to write your name with sparklers?
Sure.
Because your eye processes it a little bit slower. But if you would have your camera lens open for the entirety of the word that you're spelling, then you have a picture that has this word painted in light. And you'll see people do it with hearts or, words and stuff like that. But it's all done in a photo, because you can't do it with with video as easily. You can do long exposure video, but you wouldn't be able to do it live.
Right.
But Nate Prue,
Yeah, that's exactly right.
from St. Vincent's here in Fort Wayne.
Yeah,
and
if you
with
haven't
the
had
diocese.
him on the show, you need to, because so I had this vision of like, what if you could do it live, right? And so I went to Nate, who's kind of the just the expert of like, well, let me try, that's kind of his attitude. And so I said, hey, here's my vision of what could happen. I want to do this live light painting idea, what you just explained. I was like, is it possible? He's like, I bet I could design a program to do that. And so he designs a program that you hook a camera up to a computer, and that it's actually making it so it comes live, and the brightest part of the image is staying on while the rest is just video. And it's pretty impressive what he built. He built it out like 3 different ways, and we tried all 3, and we did all these tests to see what would work best and everything like that. So it's pretty impressive what he helped build.
I love it because, I mean, again, it's conveying a story in a way that's never been done before, to our knowledge. And so hopefully people can check this out. What ages are we talking?
I would say the show has a little bit of a PG-13, 13 and up is kind of what I would call it. Not for little kids. It definitely has some themes within that are definitely for the older kids and up.
What do you hope people get from it at the end of the night?
My hope is, first of all, that we see that we're not crazy, that we're in darkness, and that we see ourselves as a tiny flame. So I saw John Paul II in 2002. You were there as well. And the one quote I walked away with from that whole event was John Paul II said, "Even a single flame lifts the heavy lid of night. How much more light can we make altogether?" And I want people to walk away with that single message, that yes, maybe there is a sense of night that maybe you're personally going through, maybe our world is going through, but yet that tiny flame can start to lift that lid. And my goal isn't to change the world. My goal is just to change hearts, just in the littlest way.
And Kevin Heider is going to be coming for it?
Yeah, so Kevin Heider comes and he does the music. So a lot of it is built around his original music, and some really beautiful songs that kind of walk us through the night.
Yeah, if you haven't checked out Kevin Heider's music, great musician. He's actually got a great podcast as well, too.
Yeah.
Story and Song, or Song and Story.
Song and Story, yeah. Definitely check out that podcast.
All right, so where can people get tickets for it?
darknesshasnotovercome.com.
And again, that's Friday, October 11th, and it's 7:30 p.m. over at the University of St. Francis Performing Arts Center.
Yep, right downtown.
Berry Street, Fort Wayne. darknesshasnotovercome.com. And this is going to be done in tandem with, so that's October 11th. October 12th, there's going to be a Catholic Creatives regional meetup.
That's right. It's kind of a weekend, a sister event, these 2 events.
So you could come to one or the other. Great if you can come to both. We're going to be talking about that Catholic Creatives event that is coming up. We'll be talking about that here on the show. And also play a little game about artists. See if Cory can guess which artist was born first. We'll play that coming up here on the Kyle Heimann Show on Redeemer Radio. This is Kyle Heimann, and joining me as co-host and guest for this morning is Cory Heimann from Likable Art.
It's true.
And we're going to play a game. This is a game that I am calling Who Was First?
Clever name.
I'm sorry.
All right. They loved it.
Here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to list off 2 Catholic artists. You tell me which one was born first. So if they were still alive today, who would be oldest? Would be another way to say it.
Okay.
Some of them are a little close together, and so their art may have come at different times. So we're looking for who was born first.
Okay.
Are you ready?
Ready as I'll ever be.
Let's go.
Let's go.
Fra Angelico was a member of the Dominican order, and he's actually beatified. The other artist we're looking at is more classically known as Bernini. Gian Lorenzo Bernini. He did the Ecstasy of St. Teresa in Santa Maria della Vittoria. Also, the Baldacchino. Is that how you pronounce it? I'm going to get all of these Italian words pronounced wrong, but the Baldacchino in St. Peter's Basilica, the thing that goes over the altar, this like little roofy thingy. Who was first, Fra Angelico or Bernini?
I'm going to say Bernini was first.
Oh, I'm sorry. Fra Angelico was 1395. Bernini was 1598. So, 200 years later. All right. How about we do a series on the Ninja Turtles?
Yeah.
Okay. So Michelangelo versus Leonardo. Michelangelo, of course, painting of the Sistine Chapel ceiling. Leonardo da Vinci, Last Supper is one of the most famous, probably. Well, maybe the Santa Maria delle Grazie.
Yeah.
Who was born first? This is a close one. Michelangelo
Yeah,
and Leonardo.
There's a lot of overlap there. I believe Michelangelo was
No.
first.
No. Leonardo da Vinci was born in 1452. Michelangelo, 1475.
Yes.
But a little over 20 years apart.
Yes. Okay.
How about the other two Ninja Turtles, Raphael versus Donatello? This one's a little more drastic. But who was born first, Raphael or Donatello?
Donatello?
Yes, that is correct. About 100 years before Raphael. That's 1386 versus 1483 for Raphael. All right. I don't want to give too many hints, but a little more modern. Salvador Dali versus Antoni Gaudí. Gaudí is the architect of Sagrada Familia. Had a really great conversation about him with Matt Kelty.
Gaudí is a little bit older.
Yeah, that's correct. 1852 for Gaudí, 1904 for Dali. So about 50 years apart there. This is getting into music here. Hildegard of Bingen, Benedictine abbess, one of the earliest known female composers, versus Ludwig van Beethoven. A lot of sacred music from Beethoven.
Yeah. I would assume Beethoven is a little bit older.
No.
No, really.
Hildegard of Bingen is 1098.
Really?
Beethoven is 1770.
1770. Yeah, that's a big
So,
deal. I'm not familiar with
700 years
Hildegard.
apart. All right, Franz Schubert versus Igor Stravinsky. Who was born first, Schubert or Stravinsky?
Stravinsky?
No.
No.
No, Schubert, 1797. Stravinsky, 1882. All right, let's do, we don't have much time here. A quick paint versus music. Caravaggio versus Mozart.
Caravaggio.
That is correct. 1500s versus 1700s. Modern one, Father Rob Gallet versus Matt Maher.
Matt Maher is older.
Is older. That is correct. 1974 versus 1981. Good job. Coming up, we're going to talk about the Catholic Creatives Regional Meetup coming up here on the Kyle Heimann Show on Redeemer Radio. What happens on the Kyle Heimann Show?
Ooh, good question.
Good question.
Good question.
That's a really good question.
Very good question.
Great question. Great question. Yeah, you're onto something there, Kyle.
Boy, that's a great question.
That's a great question.
What a great question. That's a great question.
Great question.
Great question, Kyle.
Wonderful
That's
question.
probably one of the most challenging questions.
Again, excellent question.
Kyle, you stumped me.
I forgot what the question was.
Find out weekdays from 7 to 8 a.m.
This is Kyle Heimann here with Cory Heimann as my guest host from Likable Art. We talked about the Darkness Has Not Overcome, which people can find at darknesshasnotovercome.com.
True.
It's an event happening October 11th, and it's going to be quite the spectacle. I think you'd be interested. Go check out the video at darknesshasnotovercome.com. You can get a little gist of it. But also that weekend, October 11th and then October 12th, is going to be a Catholic Creatives Fort Wayne meetup. So Catholic creatives, let's break that down a little bit. You and I have both been very, well, I've been moderately involved lately.
Yeah.
A little busy, but I've really gotten a lot out of the Catholic creatives community. As far as I'm aware, it seems to have started on Facebook. Maybe it started with a little regional meetup. I don't know which came first there.
Yeah.
But they did a thing down
They
in
were in
Dallas.
tandem. Yeah.
And just really has grown and flourished into this online community
Yeah.
that has been artists of all different sorts. And this is kind of where we get into like everyone is an artist, right? So who should and who shouldn't be part of this community? Well, anybody's welcome. And really, if you want to be encouraged in your artistic endeavors, a lot of people that are involved with the community have some kind of external involvement with people that are creative, but there's the regular kind of painters, I guess, if you want to think of that. There's musicians, there's authors, there's videographers and photographers and dancers and poets, speakers,
Architects.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
There's also engineers in there.
Yeah.
One of the admins of the Facebook group is an engineer for like Lockheed Martin and like that.
Yeah.
I mean, some different.
He is very creative, though.
That is very true.
So all of this kind of, I want to say, hit its peak at the summit that they did, what was that, almost 3 years ago now?
Yeah, so they'll be on their third one coming up here.
Yeah. So the
Shortly.
first one you and I were both at, it was down in Dallas, and it was this, I'd say national, maybe a little bit international meetup of Catholic. No, definitely international. I remember I had lunch with somebody from Guatemala who I ended up hiring for a project. And,
Yep.
so yeah, definitely this big meetup of Catholic creatives from all over the place, meeting up in Dallas, collaborating, working together. And yeah, again, they had a second one, and they've got scheduled the third one, which people can find at CatholicCreatives.com. There's all kinds of information. There's a podcast and things. But what I want to kind of dive into is this idea of these regional meetups. They had one in Detroit, a month or so ago.
Yeah.
And really an opportunity to say, okay, maybe you're not able to fly somewhere, but could we drive and meet up for a shorter thing? It's not as big of a commitment. You don't have to dedicate 3 or 4 days to flying to Dallas to be a part of this. So really, this is something that hopefully anybody that is listening right now would be willing to come to. Like, drive across the state, drive from Ohio, whatever. Like, come to Fort Wayne on October 12th and participate this. What are some of the things that people could expect at that event?
Yeah, so it's kind of a mini conference of sorts. So it's a half day conference. It'll probably be about noon to 7 p.m. on the 12th there, and throughout the day there'll be everything from a performance art piece to brainstorming sessions where we're diving into a problem, especially one that's kind of more locally based, and understanding like what can happen here in the Midwest to really push things forward, to see a creative approach to the faith, to the work that's going on here, to our non-faith based jobs that we walk into. How do we bring creativity there? Those kind of questions, and trying to bring them up, trying to wrestle with them together, and trying to come up with actual solutions that maybe we can put into effect. So there'll be a speaker, there'll be some of that art, and there'll be those brainstorming sessions and kind of a hackathon of sorts to really dive into some of those problems.
And one thing, when we were talking about the Darkness Has Not Overcome event, you talked about doing a spark session and how this is a regular part of your creative process. You brought that down to the first Catholic Creatives Summit, and they had you actually present that to the group, and they've been doing it at every meetup ever since. A lot of people have been using that in their whatever kind of art that they're creating or whatever work they're doing. And so that's actually going to be a part of the regional meetup, is doing a spark session. One, to see if we can come up with some solutions to a problem. I don't know what the idea or the issue that we're going to be bringing up for this spark session is going to be.
Yeah.
But hopefully it'll turn into some kind of active results of a way that we can move forward in a new way. But also just to model that, so everybody can get a taste of, here's a process that you could use in your home, in your workplace, in your freelance work, whatever you're doing, to kind of spark that creativity and come up with new ideas.
Yeah. And I'm really excited. I mean, with something like that, I'm really excited because there'll be 3 or 4 people coming in from Dallas. That's where Catholic Creatives is based. And they have a team there that's kind of running that organization. So there'll be 3 or 4 people that come in for this event and kind of run it. And I'm excited to see what they've done, what they've ran with something like that, with Spark Sessions, but with the event in general, and see what they do with it and see how they bring it to this local area.
Mm-hmm. So encourage anybody that's interested in this community. You could join the Facebook group. I think that's one of the more active things. There's also a Slack group if people are on Slack. But
I think there's over 3,000 people in the Facebook group, something like that. So it's been fun to see that grow and flourish, and just the conversations that are going on there are really interesting and insightful, and seeing different people's backgrounds and even the arguments that can start up. I mean, we see that all the time on Facebook, but I think in this particular environment and community, we see a little bit more fruit coming out of them, because it is people that care and people that are trying to work through something and understand the arts.
Yeah, I think productive conversations is a very good way of describing it. Maybe we can dive into this a little bit, but what are some ways that those conversations can be more productive when we're talking about different ways of doing ministry, when we're talking about different ways of communicating truth? And there might be 2 different sides that have different ideas on how it should or shouldn't be done, whether it be music in the liturgy, whether it be ways our churches are designed, all of these different things where people might debate on it. How do you see those conversations being fruitful instead of destructive?
I think we have to start by affirming the good and recognizing, okay, you're coming from this perspective. Let me find what it is that you're saying that is good and productive, and see that and recognize that, and then share also why I think this way, and kind of coming to that understanding, finding some of that middle ground before diving in. Because especially I think artists are seeing the beauty in something and seeing how it hits someone somewhere, and so you have to see that first before you try to trample over them with the conversation.
Yeah, and another thing I've seen within this community is just seeing on one day of the week, everybody was encouraged to post what they're working on.
Yeah.
And that's really not what the platform is for. Every post can't be an advertisement for, this is my new video, go check it out. And so what they did was just said, all right, once a week
Tuesdays.
We'll post. Yeah, show your work Tuesday. That's what it is.
Yeah.
And you can post one thread, and then everything's in one place. So that way the whole thing doesn't get cluttered up with promotional things. But just seeing the art that other people are creating has been really impressive, because I think we can think of the Renaissance as being the last time great Catholic art was being made.
Sure.
And not realize the value in the great art that's being produced today, that maybe is just kind of hidden or buried, or maybe just sitting in somebody's bedroom and nobody's aware of it. And it doesn't have the fame that a Michelangelo painting has,
right,
that everybody has seen many, many times,
right,
and has been able to kind of pick apart and really appreciate. Well, this is just sitting in somebody's living room. So being able to share that has been inspirational to me. But also a reminder that there are a bunch of Catholic artists out there. And if we want to have a Renaissance, and this was a big push of the Catholic Creatives from the very beginning, the first summit was the new Renaissance. If we want to have a Renaissance, that we need to be supporting Catholic artists and Catholic art. That the reason there was a Michelangelo was because somebody hired him to do work, that somebody encouraged him to paint, that somebody trained him, and there was a community of artists that were working together and challenging each other and teaching each other and making each other better. So they got better. And there was a community that said, yeah, we will pay for this. We will support your work. And if we don't have that today, if we don't have people that are willing to support art, we won't have great artists.
Yeah.
So encourage people listening to, maybe put into some of your budget, like, we want to have something beautiful in our home.
Yeah.
I want something beautiful for my kids to be able to see that is going to, whether it be a painting of Mary, a quote, a great book, whatever, like some kind of art that's going to be in our home that's going to inspire people whenever they walk in the door, they'll be like, wow, that is moving. Tell me about that image or that poster or that quote or whatever you have, to have that in our homes to support artists, but also to have some of that beauty in our home.
For sure. I think that's really important.
You just moved, so I imagine you're kind of reestablishing. We actually just remodeled and still have not hung anything on our wall for months. It's a very slow process.
We actually went through. We did exactly what you said, and we budgeted for some new art and went to a couple of different artists, PAL campaign, and there was some other stuff from some other artists. And have a couple of those pieces hanging just from last night. We were hanging a couple of the new pieces to see how they fit with the new house.
So that's actually one other thing that's going to be at this Catholic Creatives regional meetup in Fort Wayne is there's going to be a maker's market.
Right.
And so there will be some people. I know our friend Scott from Sock Religious is going to be here with some of his socks. We've given away Pope Francis socks on the show before.
Oh, I didn't know that. That's fun.
Yeah. And he's got so many creative and fun different socks with Mother Teresa on them.
It's probably worth coming just to see the socks.
Yeah. Fondly is going to be there.
Yeah.
Your wife setting up some of her hand lettering and paintings and whatnot. And so people can check this out. If you go to CatholicCreatives.com, there's a CC Regionals 2019 that you can click on, and it's got information there. There's Dallas, Fort Wayne, Philly, New York, Los Angeles. So really, I mean, if you look at the cities here, to have this in our diocese, it's pretty awesome.
Yeah,
and so people should check it out. It's going to be October 12th at Fort Wayne. And again, Darkness Has Not Overcome is going to be the University of St. Francis Performing Arts Center. So you can make a weekend of it if you like.
That's right.
Find a friend, sleep on a couch, get a hotel, whatever. If you're traveling, encourage people to come in for this because this is really going to be a big event and it's a nice little cluster. If you can only come to one, that's fine. They are two separate events, but they are intentionally done on the same weekend so people can do both. So check it out, darknesshasnotovercome.com for information on the event on the 11th, October 11th. And you can go to CatholicCreatives.com. Also, our thanks to Notre Dame Federal Credit Union for underwriting the show, for their support. We'll be back tomorrow with another episode of The Kyle Heimann Show. Until then, remember to leave room for the Holy Spirit.